You're talking about not power, and then I recognize you like empowering and empowerment, which makes sense as a director because you have to.
You have to. Not only do you have to not have power, you have to empower the people around you to carry this film that you're making and adapting together. Is there any time that you have thought of your one-act shows and someone else has implemented something into that for you?
Oh man, I'm glad you said that. The trick is, because people only see me up there on stage, they think I do everything by myself. There could be nothing more false than that. The dramaturg, the person who I sit there and research with to make sure the piece cohesively makes sense, extremely important. The director, the person who's outside of my body on the other side saying, what about that movement? What about that action? What about that light? Because I can't do all of those things. Sometimes I still have a different person doing costumes, even though I'm only one person. Like, we have to find a costume that's going to work for me, to work for an hour that I'm going to move around and I'm going to sweat in. The lighting person, the person, all right, when you go here, because I could do all that in fluorescent, but when you put the spotlight here, the green light here, the blue and the red light here, the blue on the lit, it's a completely different story. The scenic designer, the reason why, do I have a nice big backdrop for Island Trapper? Where's the desk? Where's the chair? And then I got to go even further. People don't like to talk about, when talk about producing, who's the head of the marketing team? Who's the ED? How are we doing social media? How are we doing flyers? Where are the interviews? Are we talking to radio? Are we talking to newspaper? Am I going to a school to try to get people to come? How are we going to design the flyer? What is the font going to be? What is the picture going to be? There's so many people involved. And then another thing people don't take into account for is in the way that my plays are set up is the audience has a role. So the audience actually has to do work to be able to be involved with my shows too.
Keep it interactive.
So it's there's so many things that are going around. I think I might be a quarterback, but I still have a coach, a head coach, a general manager, a teammate here, a teammate there, and we're trying to put everything on. And I think another thing that helps me as I'm teaching people do in-person shows is when they first seem how am I going to do all that by myself? I was the trick looked good then because you thought I did it by myself, but you're not doing anything by yourself. It's kind of like in a movie where you've seen the lead actor and you don't really know everybody who's involved in that movie until the end of the credits. There's credits are so long that you're literally okay, I'm done. There's more? Yes, there's more because there's so many people involved. But I also think that also makes sure that I have a really nice, distinct story. It's really fine-tuned. I went through so many different checks and balances and so many people who went through that I'm okay, I'm at a comfortable... Same thing with the movies. All right, we went through so many editors, so many filters, so many sound people, so many polish, so many festivals that now by the time you're finally seeing it, it's good, but also that collaboration and community and collective. I also now get to have a really awesome experience with someone who's a coworker who can now be a friend when the project's done.
That's amazing.
I love it. It's great. And I love re-collaborating with people again and doing stuff again. I'm trying to see that when I graduate, if Tech is going to bring me back in here, baby, I'm telling you, be one of the flyest alumni that the school has ever had.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing everything that you do because you're most definitely going to do just that much more. And you're only going to get better from here on out.
Man, I'd be so excited.
I just try, I try to maintain your you already have this view that you give everyone else that is just upbeat and positive and a good person to be around. So I'm just trying to return the favor.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
Because I also want to give big credit to the community. I think I'm really a reflection of the people who've poured into me. And I think I'm happy to say that because I think some people feel like they pour into people and their efforts go unnoticed or unappreciated. So when someone just does something for me, I'm just yo, thank you. You did not have to do that. You could be on your phone doing TikTok or having a beer somewhere, but you took the time out to help me along my way. And I'm just extremely grateful for that because people really don't have to. So when someone does that enthusiastically, it lights something up in me to want to be able to operate enthusiastically.
And I love that. I love the fact that I've been doing research on you, so every single time that you go onto a television show or a news channel, you always bring this exertion of energy and positive outlook, and I've been experiencing that firsthand. It's been quite the wave, quite the rush.
Thanks, man. I'm talking. When I say I appreciate y'all, what people don't notice in those interviews, even with you, it's you all are people too who are taking the time out to try to bring great information, great content to the people. I think sometimes people are always looking at the person who's being asked the questions, but I'm like, no, everybody had to wake up this morning. Everybody has a lot of tasks. Everybody has a lot of goals, but everybody wants it to be a really good outcome. So I'm just grateful when someone has the energy to want it to have a big, good outcome, because there's a lot of reasons for people to have a bad attitude about anything. So if someone chooses to have the right attitude and they want to share it, because people love sharing the bad attitude.
Yeah.
But when someone wants to choose to share the good one, I'm like, oh man, like this is so awesome. Because I mean, even I know people like try to clown on like tech or even the art department, like, oh, you got a tech or in the art department. I'm like, yeah, and it's dope over here.
Shit.
Like it's fun. Like my classmates make really, really incredible art, and they do really, really great things. Like even like not even in my like direct disciplines, but I look at disciplines over. They're really great disciplines. I look at the school as a whole. I'm like, no, I'm really at one of the best schools like in the country, in the world. Like if you ask me about my PhD program, I'm like, you're not gonna find other interdisciplinary fine arts PhD programs that allow you to excel in dance, theater, music, film, art, and philosophy all at the same time.
All
like
of
this
the
is
above, yeah.
But people don't always like appreciate what's right here. So that's why like now I'm even trying to, the fact that I feel grateful and honored that you were willing to take out the time to say, hey, I'm gonna look up this individual because I think that he has value. And I appreciate that, because the way that you value your work makes me value this moment. And I'm already ready to watch your movies. Because one thing that I learned is how you do anything is how you'll do
work.
Everything.
Oh.
I got to give you a gem.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I learned that from an old head. Yeah, they were
Wow.
really saying, like, because sometimes you want to cut corners. And I think that's one of the reasons I've been able to be so successful. That was just my small play. That was just like a small album, or it's just a small class. I'm going to give my full effort, because how I do how I do anything is how I'm going to do everything, and people notice. So if you find a time where you're cutting corners, you wanted to cut that corner on that mile run, you're going to find a way to cut a corner in everything. So if you're like, no, I'm going to do the whole thing to get the whole process, then you're going to be able to benefit holistically the whole time. So even like now being a student, I'm like, okay, instead of cutting corners, the class is hard, just go study more. Because as I'm going to study more, I'm learning more. Okay, if I don't know a lot of people, go and truly actually try to know people, see how you can help them, and hopefully somebody will want to help you. Don't always like, oh, you're going to help me back. But usually when you're genuine and you help somebody, someone's like, thank you. Is there something I can help you with?
I owe you something, yeah.
And even if not, and if all you get is the endorphin or serotonin that tells you, oh, you did a good thing, that's good. That helps you like want to be here. I know this might sound weird or corny, but I'm very happy to be a doctoral student in this program, at this school, at this time, because I'm seeing the elevation and trajectory. If I could, I'd tell people like, people don't even know you can get your PhD in art. I'm like, yeah, do you know how many artists there are out here? And I know people are like, oh, if I go to school, I'm going to be wasting time. It's like, no, I've advanced, and I appreciate so many more art forms now. Now I really look into art, texture, colors, and shapes, which have now helped me with the video camera when I'm looking at angles, cinematography, the rule of thirds, which has now helped me when I'm looking at sound and cutting and mixing and mastering, which has now helped me with playwriting, which has helped me with songwriting, which has helped me with dance, which has helped me with the philosophy and the argument and why am I doing all of these things. You're like, wait a minute.
It all adds up.
Slowly but surely. Then with like the gratitude, part of me is kind of sad that the time is coming to an end, because I'm like, oh, I'm in my last semester of my coursework. I'm getting ready for exams and dissertation. But I'm looking at like the trajectory. I've been really prepared by this place. Like, I'm about to release my third album in 3 years. I had never released an album prior to coming to Texas Tech. I'm about to release my third album in 3 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm about to go on another national tour this summer. I'm dropping my first physical book, digital book, and audio book this summer. Dropping my first cartoon with 12 episodes this summer. And I have a residency with the Kennedy Center, the same place we got all those awards. They're just giving me a residency to say, we want you to just develop your new stuff with us, and we'll pay you just to develop it.
That's incredible.
But none of that was before we were here, none of that happened. Like, I was playing music, but I didn't have an album. Even now, like with the U.S. Embassy, they're sending me to like Ecuador, they're sending me to Colombia. I just became an ambassador for the San Diego International Fringe Festival. So like now these places trust me to where they want to send me around the world to represent them. But for me, I was just trying to grasp everything that I can and enjoy it to propel. Now I'm looking at the like past trajectory, and I'm like, oh man, thank you Texas Tech and even my department, because sometimes I don't want the business and law students to get the sauce from what we're doing here. But like the art kind of gets overlooked, and the only reason I want to say that is because like yes, our football team is phenomenal. Yes, our basketball team is phenomenal. But if I'm able to wear the Texas Tech art jersey, just dropped a special on Amazon last year. As a current student, dropped a special on Amazon. I'm Latin Grammy nominated for music. I'm not even Latin.
I know. I was going to mention that.
But this
I wrote it down.
This is product of Texas, like, tech. I didn't have that before I got here. It happened here. Like, ambassadorship going to Colombia and Ecuador, being able to do arts education, arts and technology. When I started working I was just working at Apple before I came back for the semester. But when I went to Apple, they're like, how do you know all of this stuff about like art and the discipline? I was like, I'm getting my PhD in Interdisciplinary Fine Arts, where I already know about technology. I already know about Web3. I already know about NFTs. Now, like, I already know about drawing. So putting all this stuff together, now sometimes you're sitting there working in class like, oh, but then that time you get to apply it or it clicks, and I think I'm just fortunate because it's clicking as I'm here. It's not supposed to click till you leave. You're supposed to like graduate and think like 3, 4, that one thing I learned, then it's supposed to click. But I'm just fortunate that it's clicking now, that I'm even more excited that when I leave, that I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, I know I keep saying lessen distance between human beings. I think right now education is in a struggle, and I want to lessen the distance between students, faculty, professors, and the institution of education. Because I think we are beautiful people. I think sometimes the system and what we want and how long it takes for a system to operate and change what we're trying to do through COVID and how things have shifted is being a little bit difficult. Like, games should be more fun. We should find more new artists. We should be hanging out. But like, there's so many things going on. So as I'm noticing what's going on, I'm like, all right, how can I possibly be an agent of change just to make school a better place after COVID? Like, people are talking so bad about school. Like, people don't want to be in school. It costs too much. It doesn't. I was like, no. Like, the coolest thing for me of school is, somebody talk about networking with classmates. I kind of feel like I network with professors and teachers because they prepare me for the professional world too. So for me to be in an ecosystem where I need to grow, I need the students to be happy. I need them to be adventurous. I need them to be encouraged. When students are isolated in their rooms and they're leaving every weekend and they're not part of the community, it makes the network harder to do. When teachers have so many like things like stopping them from teaching how they want to teach or the things they want to teach because they have to fit in the system and get in the grades, now I'm not able to learn from somebody who I'm networking is going to help me get into the real world. So I'm like, if we can just find a way to value some of the stuff we have and do it here, I think the growth of everybody be better. But that's like a new problem we've had with everybody shifting to online, and now we're trying to shift back in person, and the shift back in person's been just a little rough. But I think that we all want to. I can tell that we all want to. So I'm just kind of excited with like the way that things are like shaping and moving, and like we're kind of getting back to our old ways. I'm like, even though I'm an artist, I'm like, it'd be really cool if the school had like an artist showcase. Why doesn't Texas Tech have like a showcase for on-campus artists and people to know about people like on campus? Why don't we see movies from kids here like on campus? How do we support them and promote them? But a lot of things is people are having, they're like, all right, I did this in class, but I have to leave to go. It's like, no, we have the resources, we have the institutions, we have the lights, we can do all of that here. So then when you do go in the real world, it's more like I have an experience base instead of you having to go to get the experience. So I know I went on a long entanglement, but I believe in school and education and my classmates and professors because of how I've been able to come out as a human being through the process. And I've dropped out. I was multiple times. But I still find that I'm like, it might make me sound so corny, but I'm so grateful to God that I'm able to just be able to be in school and learn when people have so many other difficult issues they have to deal with every single day. Like, somebody out there is really hungry. Somebody out there really doesn't have a home.
Somebody out there can't walk.
Somebody out there can't walk. Somebody doesn't have all the limbs. They don't even. But I'm like, I get to have the privilege of sitting in the classroom and learning from someone who took the time to come up with a lesson plan and and to break it down just so I can learn this. And I have a classmate next to me who, if I don't get it, they're gonna help me get it, or we can go study it. Like, that is such a privilege. But we have to be excited about the work we're doing in the room. So I think one thing I just want to bring is like, hey, no matter what you're teaching, whatever you're doing, it's exciting and it's interesting. And if you come with that energy, everybody in the ecosystem benefits. Sorry for that super long.
You were fine. That was so humble of you, and so.
I guess I'm a reflection of you because you're extremely humble too. Hey, like, y'all, look, I haven't been interviewing him, but this gentleman right here is really awesome. and extremely kind, and his research is phenomenal.
I really
I didn't even know how you knew about the New Zealand stuff.
I've been keeping up. That's all I gotta say. I spent a good 8 hours just sitting in my bed, just looking you up and writing down details.
Okay, I hope I didn't bore you. Tell me, what are some of the most interesting things you found?
Oh, okay. So I really the Denzel tears really got me.
Yeah.
The Latin Grammy, that was funny. I had no idea until I saw online, and I was like, wow.
I did not know that more people actually watch the Latin Grammys than the American Grammys. Like by a large number. I think the regular Grammys is like 8 million, 7. The Latins is like 18 million.
I think it's because it's just the way that we do it.
Yeah.
I don't really like the...
Yeah.
The Lubbock Community Theater, first touring artist.
Yes, we started a whole program. That's the stuff we're talking about. But that's shout out to them because and so I had the opportunity to do stuff at Texas Tech. So all the plays and stuff I'm doing at the community theater I could have done there. But a part of me was like, we already have the systems, and not to be bad, but like a lot of students are like, oh, the free ticketing thing, I'm probably not gonna go. But when I notice I'm doing stuff at the community theater, even the college students, when they see I'm doing the community theater, is like, oh, he's applying it to the real world. I want to see how he's doing it. But also, I'm able to invite like people's brothers, sisters, mom or dads. It's very more communal. Because one of the things that I think make me sad about art, and you definitely know this because of Hollywood too. I think some people think if you're not going to make it on Broadway or Hollywood, don't do the thing. And I hate that aspect.
I love this aspect.
I hate that aspect. And the reason I feel like is like, man, that means that the local communities are getting cheated out because we wanted you to educate you and to be sparked and inspired by this to be able to bring something back to us that we can see. But if all the best players are having their aim on going there and they don't make it there and they just stop, what does that mean for the local community, the city community, the state community, the regional community? And I'm like, we deserve really great art too.
Oh, you're right.
Without having to pay.
That's telling them that they'll never make it, you know? And I think the smaller people are very, very, very important.
And the smaller people become so big to like that local community.
Exactly.
Who can also probably support you and uplift you to make something even bigger, but you're so focused on trying to make it somewhere else. Like, no, like your neighbor, the guy who helps with the mail, the person with the garbage can, the person who might like help you with your laundry or your dry cleaning, if they all knew you're doing something locally or they could support you in your film or your play, they would, but you cheat them by not giving them the opportunity. But I also think that aim that everybody thinks you have to be in New York or in LA to be an artist is so false. It's so false.
You're completely right. I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago.
Ooh,
and
big city.
Yeah, I loved it. My family friend Melissa and Coy, they went for a helicopter flight out to the Grand Canyon, and once they were on the helicopter, they were talking to the pilot. Now the pilot apparently is a videographer, half the time during the year, and she shot American Sniper. And
the pilot?
The pilot for the helicopter, half time throughout the year she goes and shoots video,
videographer?
and then she also goes and
like the American Sniper thing, the
yeah,
film
with Chris Kyle, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
crazy. Small it really shows that small people are big influence, things. You know.
I love people who are multidisciplined like that because it's kind of like person right in front of me be like a whole cook made a magnificent meal. You don't know they're a surgeon or a mechanic at the exact same time. Exactly. Like that's so beautiful. That's so awesome.
I mean, it really shows. Just that reminds me of the fact that you do want to plays, and not only do that, but you also benefit the community. And I think that's the number one thing that people should look at you is the fact that you're really a people person. You push for the community.
That I found, Hayden. And even now I'm able to do like these tours and all these places. They're not big places. I'm only doing venues maybe like, just be honest with you, I'm only doing like 50, 60 spot venues. But the 50, 60 people who show, they come in full and are supportive to where I don't need a record label to do a tour because I have personal relationships with people in all these smaller towns across the country to where I just got to fill a 50 that night, the 50 or 4, we play the songs, they sing along, they like the songs, and I get to live out my dream, and they get to say I got some good art this time, and I get to be like, oh, I have a relationship with you, I'm just coming back, I'm just like Cousin Austin coming back in town, instead of me saying, oh, I'm not signed, I don't have a manager, I don't have an agent, I want to sell out this 5,000 seat venue. It's like, no. what can I practically do with the relationships I have? So me, I'm trying to do something small, but I might be partnering. I'm touring. One of the places I'm hitting is Dallas and Houston. I'm doing with some people I went to school with. I was like, I'm looking for a 50-seat venue, da-da-da-da. But as I'm partnering with them, they're like, how many people can you bring? Honestly, I'm like, I probably bring 25. But I'm partnering with them, and them. And they're like, well, I can probably bring 20. I can probably bring 15. I can bring. I was like, oh. Yeah. So now we're going to have a small event that's sold out, and we're happy and it's manageable, and we're living our dreams while still having our lives. Wow. While still being able to, like, go to work, do da-da-da-da-da, but it's still tangible, so I don't have to feel like, my dreams are, like, deferred. It's like, no, it's in your hand if you're willing to collaborate and know, I don't want to say bare minimum, but what do you need to make it happen? Because a lot of people say, oh, if I don't have this or I don't have this, because they're like, So even when I talk to some filmmakers, and it probably don't help because I used to work at Apple, people are like, oh, I need this and this to make a film. I'm like,
you don't.
You have an editing program? Yeah. What kind of phone you got? iPhone 14 Pro Max.
Shoots in 4K, so I mean, you're good. But you don't even need to shoot in 4K with film. It's 24 frames per second generally, that to 30.
So. My next one, shout to you for knowing that. The next thing that's for me though, and that is like, so what's stopping you from, even how I got good at the ukulele, I used to suck at this thing. The only way I got good though is you have to be willing
to suck.
To be embarrassingly bad.
I loved that quote from you.
In order to be great.
Great.
Yeah, I'm talking like embarrassing.
I wrote that down. I actually, that was a quote that, before you have to be great at anything, you have to be embarrassingly bad. And I loved that quote because I'm currently learning the guitar.
Oh, you didn't share that part!
I'm currently learning the guitar.
Oh, snap!
My brother, he's so great at the guitar. And my parents, they love listening to him. I can sing. I'm a shower singer. I don't know.
I could tell in your voice, yeah, I was singing. I'm also wondering if you know what to do with the bottom three, because it's the same as guitar, the bottom three strings.
The bottom three strings are the same at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so D, right? It'd be like this, right? That's a D.
You're close. It's closer to, like your hand shapes are right on. Mm-hmm.
So how long did it take you to adapt to
the ukulele?
To hear the
let's see. My grandfather was actually part of a famous band called the San Francisco TKOs, where he played the saxophone and he was the lead arranger. They actually went to New Zealand and Scotland, and I've heard his music. And so, and no offense, I love you, Mom, I love you, Dad, but the talent skipped them. It skipped them. My older sister played the sax, my other sister played the flute, my other brother played the trumpet, so they thought I was going to pick up a horn, and I was like, give me a drum set.
Yeah.
So I was just playing around the drums, but when I was little, my grandfather, he was a boxer too, so he would teach me how to box, but he never teach me how to play the piano, but I would always sit next to him when he played the piano. I was like, it's so interesting that he taught me how to use my hands as a weapon and not an instrument. I always think about that. But then eventually later, I'm playing football, I'm playing basketball, and then like I'm on the football team, all these Samoans and Tongans, they just... I'm like, oh, that's cool, man, but they can do the... You know, like... And then I start rapping. I'm going over, and that bitch like, Austin, look, get your own. I'm not playing for you anymore. So I asked my dad, like, hey, Dad, can I get a ukulele from the street? I was like, I have $35. Give me 15 and I can get one. He's like, all right, let's go. I get a red one. Her name was Rosalina Aisha San Mateo, California.
Oh my Lord.
When I first started, I was embarrassingly bad. Like, not like, it was like, my older sister, like, stop, please.
Yeah.
Please stop. I get on this thing called the BART train. I try to play, and people are like, oh. But eventually, keep playing in front of people and just... And then people who would come on the train angry. I just play, I wouldn't look at them. And I noticed that their angry faces would just start to...
Just kind of chill out.
And then when I started putting people asleep on the train, and they'd leave waving, I'm like, okay, I'm getting pretty good. But it's that process of being publicly embarrassingly bad and sharing, and that process of continuously doing it that'll get you there. So I hear friends are like, oh, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm like, well, are you making films on your phone? Just to be in the practice of like, I have a shot list, I have lights, I have scenics, I have my rule of thirds, I know how I'm going to edit it, I know my process, I know my production, I know how I'm going to release it. You can do all that process and be getting better. Oh man, I want to learn how to be able to play like this instrument, be a musical artist. Okay, how many hours are you putting on it? Are you writing on it? Are you going to open mics? Are you putting it out on distro? Are you making the music? Like, The stuff that people think that they need, even if you get that person, let's say you get signed or you get that film deal, as soon as you do, you're just go right back to that process you would have been doing by yourself.
Yeah.
So you might as well learn it and don't skip the steps.
Completely.
Because then when you do get there, like even now playing, people are like, oh, Austin, how do you know all these songs in your head? Or how do you know all these characters? And I was like, well, because I sucked in front of people for a long time. But I was lucky enough to where some people were like, not today, but like, keep going. Then you kind of put your head up, you're like, oh, dang, man, like, 3 albums. I'm like my 4th one-person show. Like I'm going around the like world and getting a PhD. But first you have to be the dropout. First you got to be out of tune. First your white balance got to be off. Like you gotta like mess up. But that also makes the story so cool because what it reminds me is that we have amazing capacity when we lock in. If we can lock in, and I think sometimes is we put a lot of effort in the jobs we get or the orders we get from like our parents. It's like, dang, if we put those same orders on ourselves for our dreams, what would that mean? You know, the same like if you have a job and you can't be late for your job, or they say, why are you late? If you held that same standard to yourself for your dreams, what would you be?
Better.
So that's I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this shot list or do scouting or get permits, or I really don't want to learn these chords. It's like, but if you did though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so I picked up the guitar, right? And John Mayer once said, you can either pick up the guitar to learn to play music, or you can pick up the guitar to learn to play guitar. And you can either play music or you can play the guitar. And I want to learn to play music because, you want to be able to generate something just for yourself at the end of the day. Just appreciate it more. I know, I love that quote from John Mayer.
That was amazing. I love John Mayer. Body is a wonderland.
Oh, most definitely.
John Mayer used to have this opener who I really, really loved named David Ryan Harris.
I think he's opening again for him, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh, that guy can write songs so good and sing so good. And I think I like them just paired together because Dave has this like really nice, like gentle voice and so does Ryan, but both of their guitar playing is just like, how do you write that good and play that good? Because usually someone has one or the other's like, all right, you either like sing really, really good and your playing's all right, or your playing's really good and your singing's like, no. But you know that has me encouraged for us as storytellers? People ask me like, oh, so why are you doing this? Or why are you playing this? Or even why are you getting your PhD? I'm like, I'm setting up for the storyteller I want to be 30, 40 years from now.
I completely agree.
And unlike sports or athletics, your arm gets hurt and you can't play anymore. You only get better at telling stories with time.
Have you ever had a creative block?
I actually don't think I really. This is some weird stuff I learned from my acting teachers. I'm grateful when I have a block because I think like blockages and boundaries allow creativity to excel. Sometimes when things are too open, it's hard to be creative because it's just like, it's whatever. Sometimes you need those boundaries to be like, those boundaries helps me be creative.
Yes.
But if I ever feel like I have a block in my artistry life, it's because I know there's a block in my personal life. Those two things are very similar. So if I've ever been a block in my artistry life, I'm like, something's going on in my in my real life that I need to fix. And if there's something like block in my real life, there's usually a block in the artistry. So I think what I usually try to do is, I'm giving you guys the juice right now. I try to find out what scares me or makes me fearful. The blockage is usually something that I'm intimidated by or I'm fearful by and I don't want to face. And it takes me a while for me to recognize, like, this intangible thing is not going to kill me. Because, our brains are so powerful that, there's something you don't want to deal with. You will run from it. You will hide from it. By all means, you don't even thinking about it. Don't send me a text. I'm turning off notifications. I don't want it. But I've also noticed that when I'm able to face something or do it scared anyway, it's so much more powerful on the other side. And another thing that I noticed that helps me with blockages is don't edit and critique while creating. Create, take a break, then come back and edit, critique. But if I'm sitting here looking at something, whether it's a song, whether it's a play, and I'm like, but it needs to be like, don't write that because it needs to be like, whoa, you can't come in the room yet, brother. I'll let you know when the editor and the critic can come in the room, But right now, it's Crayola markers. I'm writing on the wall. I'm making stuff that makes no sense because that part has to be free. That's the fun part. That's why I get to jump around. Yes. So I think the only time I have a blockage is when I don't allow myself permission to do that.
I love that. I always think about, the hero's journey.
Come on, Joseph Campbell, talk to me.
So the hero's journey, there's always a bump in the road for the hero. And there's always something that puts him down before he can come up on top. And I always think about that whenever I have a creative block, because I always think about, hey, this one moment of struggle and small mishap will just allow me to be a better person at this.
So what do you do when you have a blockage? What you do? What's your game plan? What do you do?
So I allow myself to be totally bad. The whole way through, I suck, and I allow myself to suck.
Yeah.
And what I do is I just kind of turn it into humor. Humor's my like outlet for me personally. I'll make jokes about something that really bothers me, or I'll just go and I'll clear my mind by walking around or something. I really try to get out of wherever I am and then right back in as fast as I can, because that 1 5-minute break allows me to kind of have less stress and less struggle in my mind, and I can just kind of slip back into the creative process.
Give you some jokes, let you go for a walk, get some air, get some water, you back in the game.
Yeah,
that's good. That's some good advice.
It makes you happy.
Yeah. And I think humor is a healthy way. I've always, and I know people are like, why do people love dark comedy? But I've noticed people who are able to understand dark comedy can maneuver through the world with less pessimism. A lot of times for me, because I'm like, you'd be able to take something dark and kind of find a little brightness, a little smirk to it, even though it's really, really dark, but just to help you navigate, because the world can be really, really dark sometimes.
It's hard to look around and see all of that.
Yeah, but if you see something that kind of makes you smirk so you can make the next step, I've noticed those people are able to maneuver in a way that I admire, more so than people who are just and some people love tragedy. I was like, okay, you'll get a moment of tragedy from me, but then right back, we got to scoop it back up.
Oh, yeah.
Energy is just everything. Man, I'm wondering, what is the thing that you like about tech most?
Oh, what do I like about tech most? Well, I'm actually second generation. Both my parents went here to Texas.
Both of them here?
Both of them went
here.
They
meet here?
They met here. And
do you feel pressure to meet your boo here?
Oh. I always feel pressure. My sister, she loves, going out and dating and meeting people and, having a relationship. But me, recently, this past year, I've been trying to focus on myself and
I love that, brother.
Grow myself and try to focus on what I want to do in my future, because if I had someone, what if I didn't have them? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I really have to analyze, where do I want to be as an individual?
Self-love first, so you could have love to pour.
Oh, most definitely. You can't love another human being without loving yourself.
Have your folks ever seen your art? They see your films, or?
So I was in a news team in high school.
You're a news?
I was in a news team, but I was part of the skit team. So there was a little segment called Skit Team 6, and we have a little skit that we do.
Like the SNL part of the news.
Yes, exactly.
So the sketches and the writing, and now that's how you got into film. And I see.
Well, actually, the first time I got into film and editing and video, I was 8 years old and I built my computer, and so I was really into video games, and I took the time to take my clips from the video games and put them together with music and make little montages. Yeah. And I think I first started making videos on a Dell laptop, which then I moved to the
PC?
computer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I moved to the computer, which was 8 years old.
You started young.
Yeah, I feel like my parents wanted to give us something, each of us something that we all separately enjoyed.
And can lock in on.
Yeah, Peyton was real cheerleading and basketball and sports and all that. Zane's is music and mine's video and media, most definitely.
Golly.
I love it. I love media. And in high school, I really I enjoyed doing a skit team. That was the team that we used. But they stopped wanting to do the skits and stuff, because they were getting bored and they wanted to play Among Us and these games that you just sit in class and play. But I was always thinking, I'm never going to get this time back. Why not make more skits and more skits? It just kind of became what I wanted to do.
Passion.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be an engineer, and then I was like, I'm not mathematically inclined enough for this, so
No, you're like just engineering in a different way.
Exactly. It's a little bit more creative.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more. I'd say that they are very like logistically creative, but I'm very English was always my strong suit.
Yeah, you articulate yourself very well.
I was kind of born in a household that liked to correct grammar.
Oh, you wasn't saying ain't too much around the crib.
Oh. My dad said
not too many y'alls.
Me and my friends. He's my friend and I. My friend and I. Every single time.
That is amazing. But you're coming out to be an amazing artist, man. Wait, what year are you in school?
I'm a sophomore.
You have so much promise.
I got a long ways to go. It's
a great ways to go. Like,
great ways to
there's
go.
so much greatness on the path.
The journey is better than the end result.
It is every time. I think that's even making me think about like the PhD. Like it's coming to an end. I was like, yeah, I think I might have had more fun getting it done than like the actual document's gonna represent. But that's good though.
So out of all your awards, would you say that your PhD is your most looked forward to for you?
Yeah, that's the one that I think I'm like most locked into because I have like little cousins, my mom, my dad, my brother, sister. Nobody ever has just made it that far or really tried to, and doing it as something they like. Not like some people might get like a law degree or a medicine degree, not even because they want to, just because
the money.
The money, and I'm like, no, this is actually something that I want to do and I like it. And I was like, oh man, this is really exciting. I think the only thing that's going to be tough is after that's knocked out. I learned this from Lauryn Hill. Is the problem is, you know how people say, oh, I'm the #1 rapper. I'm da 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 da. Everybody once they get to that mountain that they climb, they want to stay on top of it. But you're supposed to use that experience to say, all right, now I'm going to go to another valley to climb another mountain because I know I can.
Exactly.
So I'm excited to finish this one to say like, man, I'm actually excited to go into a valley to climb another mountain.
And this time you get to set that mountain for yourself. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
hopefully.
Like this is a PhD. Everyone can get a PhD, but this next thing is like, you make this for yourself. And if anything, that should be, after getting your PhD, that should be even more of a stronger thing to strive for, is something that you can create just from a goal set in your mind.
It's legacy time.
It's awesome. It's
legacy time. I'm also trying to make sure, like, I don't know. I think people think it's weird to have, like, relationships with the place you went to. Like, I still love my undergrad. I still love where I got my master's. Like, I hope I get to come here and make homecoming, like, a really cool smacking thing. But when I was a student is, at some schools, I loved it when, like, actual alumni from there came back because it would just change my mindset of trajectory to be like, oh, man, you went here, too, and you're doing completely something else now. So I'm excited to end strongly here to remind students what they can do while they're still a student. Like, no, you don't have to graduate to get no Latin Grammy. You don't have to graduate to be on Amazon. You don't have to graduate to be an ambassador.
You just have to put in the work.
And you could do it while you're a student. But also, I'm excited to do that so that also when I graduate, it's like, okay, now it's a whole new bar, like what is possible, what is capable, and I want to be able to come back and bring some things to implement things. Like the same way I did Solo Fest at LCT, I love to bring Solo Fest here on campus. I like to help other people just how to learn how to be artists at school to prepare yourself to be an artist outside of school. Because a lot of things you think you need outside, you could learn right here with the things I have. Like, you can learn radio, media training, all that stuff right here at the school. There's literally a radio. Have you even...
KTXT.
So I was like, have you ever went? And I'm like, no. But like, I want to be an artist. Like, have you performed at anything on campus? No. I'm like, well...
Why not?
Like, that's the perfect place you start. That's where you get the first clip. That's where, like, your dorm mate becomes a fan of you for the first time because they saw you. So I want to help people to recognize, like, I mean, it's so corny, but, like, the greatness is within. Everything, like, that's the biggest thing about Island Trap. Like, he went on this whole journey to recognize that he was never trapped. The island was on the inside. So it's like, no, like, the reason why you came to the school because you wanted to be a doctor or you wanted to be a lawyer, engineer, like, practice those things right now. Like, here we are. If you want to be a designer, if you want to be a cook, make some food for people around the dorms or design some clothes for somebody around. You want to do events, set up a party, set up, like, a shindig. Like, You want to do a business, like do the business outside the dorms, like get. I think too many people are thinking like, once I finish this, then I can do that. It's like, if you organize and lock in, you can kind of do both, and you doing both will kind of help you get through instead of being really mad at the thing you're doing, feeling like you have to wait, and you're like,
No, honestly, because I had this podcast with you, and I was really, really, really nervous about it. I've never done a podcast before, never hosted anything. And I set myself up with a couple metalsmith workers last week, and I just recorded the metalsmith workers and recorded them, doing some metalsmith work, and it kind of helped me get away from the mindset of, hey, I have this really big podcast Monday. I'm already focused on something else at hand, and the weekend hit.
Metalsmithing?
Metalsmithing.
I want to ask you so many questions.
It's so cool. I walked in there.
Is it welding?
It's everything. They take metal and they'll put it in this spinning, I forgot the name of it, this spinning machine, and it'll spin it and it'll heat up while it's spinning. I think it's called it starts with an S. But heats up the metal, and they'll sit there, and all the people that I interviewed about the metalsmith working, they're very they love the part of metalsmithing about the fact of it being like a hard labor. It's very gritty and very
labor field, physical
resisting.
Labor,
it resists the artist, it's sitting there. Your work is actively resisting you as you're trying to form it into something.
Dang, that's beautiful.
I know. And when they were explaining that to me, I was like, wow. So a bunch of these people, they have a whole bunch of emotions inside that they carry with them and just put into their art, physically. And I think that's really, really interesting. But it helped me come here, and be prepared for this, because of the fact that I get to get my mind away from, hey, this is Austin Dean Ashford, This guy, he's not going to be here for very long. I better make this good,
And one, you made it phenomenal. But two, that aspect you just told me, you're actively working with art that's resisting you, and you're actively working with it. I'm like, oh, man. That is such a beautiful, brilliant concept and metaphor. I'm glad that you did that during that time while doing this, just so you can share that with me at this moment. Because I'm like, wow, that is incredible. And you also kind of, in the same time as us, I'm recognizing what does it mean to work with art that is resisting you? Mm.
That's a good question, because you can have that anywhere. It doesn't have to be just metalsmith work. Have you ever had a time in your work where your art's resisted you?
Yeah. I think as much as I thought Hamilton was going to open up the doors for what I did, it kind of commodified it.
What did you do with Hamilton?
No, so I make hip-hop theater, so a lot of my theater that I make is embedded in the pedagogy of hip-hop. But when people experience Hamilton, they recognize an American Broadway musical that has a rap in it. Those are two different things. Mm-hmm. However, with that thing in existence, I can now kind of let people know what I'm doing in the world, but it's not the exact same thing. So I could at least say, did you like Hamilton? Yeah, well then you're going to probably like Island Trap. But if Hamilton didn't exist, it's harder to explain, even though we're not doing the exact same thing. So, but also hip-hop has just had a very difficult placing with theater. So sometimes they kind of resist each other as you're trying to put them together, because a lot of times...
Would you say it's the culture that really kind of bashes heads with one another?
Because theater is a very bourgeois, higher class, you can afford it, these things that they're talking about. Hip-hop comes from revolting, rebellion, kind of lower class people. I'm trying to put those both things kind of in the same space to bring the two different people into the same space.
That's so hard to narrowcast two separate, completely different audiences in one performance in itself, and I can see how that might resist you as an artist.
But much like the metalworking, I need the metalworkers to do that in order for me to have a frame or a structure, the same way I feel like I need that to be able to bring in people who may look differently to be in the same space, or people who aren't used to that in the same space to be able to work together. So I appreciate you bringing up the metalworkers. It allows me hey dang, in a weird way, I'm an interdisciplinary worker of my own type of metals and minerals.
Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
It's been great
to
know
Tech, baby. You know what it is. Interdisciplinary department. The arts are here, baby.
Yo. All right. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Oh, it's been so cool.